College, but Dawn Volken and Eric Weld have asked me to introduce Daniel Blaufuks, which I'm very happy to do. I want to thank the Kahn Liberal Arts Institute for supporting your lunch and Daniel Blaufuks' talk today. He's going to talk about a visit to Terezín. Some of you may know Terezín as Theresienstadt. And I wanted to let you know that this is a 3-day series, so this is in some sense the opening of Daniel Blaufuks' visit here. And tonight, well, this afternoon at 5 at the Institute for Holocaust, Genocide, and Memory Studies at UMass, he will be screening his film, Under Strange Skies, which looks at the history of his own family. His grandparents immigrated from Germany and Poland and settled in Portugal. Are they alive? I'm not sure. Are they alive? They were. They were Jewish. His family is still Jewish. So the film looks at that history, but also juxtaposes the histories of others who either settled in Portugal or moved through Portugal. And I think given the issues today, this is a very timely film as well. And then on Thursday at 7 p.m. at Mount Holyoke College in Dwight 101, they'll be screening an excerpt from the film As If, or Also As If, which we'll be talking about today. You'll see some scenes from that film, but if you want to see more, join us, and it'll be a different conversation as well. I just wanted to say a few words. Daniel Blaufuks' work, as some of you may know, really looks at the vicissitudes of memory, of the veracity of memory, of the illusion of memory, of the fakeness of memory, and the ways in which images over time change their particular truth value, so to speak. He also is well known internationally for working on the visualities of narrative. He's worked quite a bit on W.G. Sebald's work, which I'm sure he'll mention here, which is very important. It's integral to his work on Terezín and visit there, and also George Perec as well. So Daniel's a very, very talented person who's done a range of work in the range of media, from photography, film, video, objects, material objects, etc. So I'm going to stop there. You can also read more on his website, danielblaufuks.com, which has a list of all his works, his films, and projects and writing. So I suggest you go there for more details, so we can listen to him now. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, before we get one important addendum, the dining said veggie wraps will be delivered in 5 minutes. So anybody who's waiting for that, I want to make sure you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Donna, for having me here. Enjoy your meal. For me, this is a strange sight because in Europe we'll never do this. Eating and listening to people, but that sounds really nice. So I'm going to start, since it's not very long this hour, and now some of you at least have to get away before 1 o'clock to get class. I'll try to be brief, as brief as possible in a long story. I got interested in Terezín, as Karen mentioned, through Sebald, who wrote a wonderful book, his last book before he died in a car accident. The book was called Austerlitz. You probably know about it, and those who don't know should know about it. There's a bookstore, I'm sure, not very far away from here. And in Austerlitz is the story of a man who finds out he was not born in Wales, and his foster parents were not his real parents, and that he was actually from Prague, from Jewish parents who had not survived and was put on a kinder transport to the United Kingdom. The book is about his search for identity. He was looking for his roots, looking for his name, because he had actually grew up with a Welsh name, and only at school he finds out his real name is Austerlitz, a name that also has a lot of connections that I won't go into now. But basically he discovers that his mother, as most of the Czech Jews, was kept at Terezín, Theresienstadt. I don't know how much you know about the camp, so I'll try to just briefly explain to you that Terezín was a town built by the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the end of the late 18th century as a garrison town. So it is a town that is fortified, with enclosed within walls and moats surrounded by water. So it was the perfect space for the Austrian army. Theresienstadt comes from Marie Therese, who was the emperor's mother. And the first and parallel to the garrison, which is a kind of a star fortress, was built a smaller fortress, also as a star, that was built originally as a prison. The most famous prisoner, and the prisoner number one in Theresienstadt, was Gavrilo Princip, who you might know was the anarchist who killed the Archduke in Sarajevo, giving start to the First World War. He died in Terezín. He got tuberculosis, and that was the main reason also he was chosen for the attentat, for the task. But as you see, the place was perfect also for the Nazis, for the Germans when they invaded Czechoslovakia. The Gestapo immediately took over the small fortress as a prison, mainly and first for the Czech resistance. Many Czechs died in the early stages of Theresienstadt. And also then it was decided at the Wannsee conference that Theresienstadt would be a transit concentration camp. The Nazis, what makes it really interesting is that the Nazis never called it a concentration camp, they called it a ghetto. And this because the Jews were left by themselves, with the Jewish self-organization, with the Jewish mayor, with the Jewish elder council, and it was like a complete fake town where the Jewish population were not only left by themselves, but they were also left to the imagination that they would survive the war, and it was just a temporary stage in their lives. The first to be invited to come to Terezín were mainly Jewish couples from Berlin and Hamburg, where the men originally had fought in the First World War for the Germans, obviously, and they were kind of invited. You give us your possession, your houses, and the state will take care of you in Theresienstadt, a kind of a social security welfare system that was supposed to work very well. The Nazis profited, and I think they knew of that. Theresienstadt, people heard about Theresienstadt, but people thought mostly of Theresienbad, which is a spa town in Austria. And this game was very much used by the Nazis. So the people who arrived there were expecting a kind of a spa town that they had heard about. Like, I don't know if we'll see it here today, but there is a scene in the film where the lady says, "Oh, we reserved a 4-room apartment with view to the lake," and obviously there was never a lake in Terezín, and as there is no lake now, there was never before. Anyhow, so this is the broader aspects of Theresienstadt, Terezín, and I got interested because, like I was saying, because of Austerlitz, because in Austerlitz, Sebald, for those who might not know, Sebald mix pictures within his text. It's one of the reasons it became so known and kind of a cult author for our artists because of this use of images. And the images do not necessarily illustrate the text. On the contrary, they create different readings to the text, to the story that he is proposing. Just taking on this paper before the fall on the floor. Anyhow, in Austerlitz, I knew it. In Austerlitz, Sebald has this one picture that really intrigued me from the start, because it's a strange picture, and like I said, he's not illustrating. So in Austerlitz there is no. It comes within the pages about Theresienstadt, but it doesn't say it is in Theresienstadt. So I was very much intrigued about this image. Not only because it is a metaphor for German organization, all these files in their cabinets, but I was also intrigued because it looked like a stage to me, it looked like a set. And that for many reasons. First, the empty tables, which is something that doesn't exist anymore. We don't have empty tables because we always have computers on it. So it's something really from a past world, from an analog world. Then there is this open door, which seemed to indicate that someone just left and is coming right back in, continuing working. And most of all, the clock that is at 6 o'clock, which is the most vertical line that you can have in a clock. So it all looked very much like a stage, and I was intrigued about this image, and it stayed on my mind for years. And then years after I had read Austerlitz, I finally decided to use some air miles and fly to Prague and go to Terezín, which is like 40-45 minutes by bus from Prague, and to look for the image, if I could find the image, and because I wasn't certain it was in Terezín. I imagine it was, but I wasn't certain. I also didn't know, like we never know in Sebald's books, who took the picture, because in a sense the picture is timeless, I feel. I mean, it could be taken during the war, it could be taken in 1930, but it could also be taken in 1970. I mean, there is no indication of, besides the 6 o'clock, there is no indication of time. Everything is very timeless. I mean, there's a date to the furniture that we could put on. Obviously, there's a date to the manufacture of the clock, but there is like a 40 years that could have easily passed without the room, that would not date the photograph. So I went to Terezín, and like I said, there is the town. The town has between 2,400 inhabitants. Before the war, it had 3,000. It had a very small Jewish community even. And when the concentration camp was created, that community was expelled by the Nazis, was evicted. And before the war was 3,000. During the so-called ghetto, it rose to 70,000. And now, like I said, it's back at 2,300. So you can imagine what is a space that normally houses 3,000 people suddenly having 60 to 70,000. And this with hunger, sickness, old age. So the Jewish administration had to create all the elements that make a city. It had to create police, because obviously, I mean, with 70,000 people there are crimes, there is rape, there is anything that the human being is capable. Also, maximized because of the starvation and the general conditions. It had to create a fire brigade. It had to create kind of schools for the children. But at the same time, this Jewish administration had also to fulfill the wishes of the Nazis. If the Nazis said we need a transport of 1,000 people next Tuesday at 7 in the morning, it was the Jewish administration that had to make put the names on the list for this transport. And they knew where the people were going to. So I went to Terezín, like I said, and I found a room and took my own picture from the same room. And I hadn't taken because I was unprepared, I hadn't taken the Sebald book, the author. So I had the picture in my mind, like I said, but I didn't have it in front of me. But when I then compared it, I noticed obviously changes. The tables had changed. From the 2 tables, it became only 1. Still empty, still no computer on it. But the door was still open in the same way, and the files had been organized to look more like a stage, more like my idea. And in fact, it is a stage because this is in a small fortress, and it's the part of Terezín that became musealized. Can you say that? It became the museum part. And the door is always open like this because there is a glass door that prevents visitors from entering the room. So in the end, I took the picture through the window, through the only window that exists. And by doing this, I had the same point of view as the photographer in the Sebald image. One thing I didn't notice then, and then again until I went back last year, it was on my mind for years. I didn't look for the clock, if the clock was still there. Now I know the clock is not there anymore. But I only found it out this year. This is a work from 2006. So all this time I had the clock. Is the clock still there? And then I was in Prague to speak about my work a few years ago, and I thought, should I go to Terezín, see if the clock is there? And I decided to keep the mystery. But now, because I went back to film, obviously I had to see it. So again, I took the photograph, and I thought this would be a very good metaphor, not only for the Nazi organization, like I was saying, but in fact for my own work, because I was working very much at the time, I still am, but more than on archives, on filing systems, and this passage from the analog to the digital world. I had never thought of visiting a concentration camp because, Karen mentioned my grandparents. I think are kind of fascinated to the message that the concentration camps are supposed to give. I had the virus already instilled from childhood, since knowing what had happened to all these people. So I never had the will to go to Auschwitz, and I've never been. So Terezín was kind of and is my only experience with concentration camps. And I never thought of doing anything about the concentration camps, because I think the subject is so deep and so wide and but at the same time, sometimes so easy, because there are lots of works, people go to concentration camps, make a few black and white pictures, it looks very sad, and everyone, is feels with the picture, but that's not enough for me. I think you have to dig deeper to try to show the Holocaust for new generations, and now that the survivors are almost all gone, we have to find new ways of retelling the story. So when I took this picture, I really didn't think about doing something more than taking this one picture, and then I might insert it in some kind of more broader work. But then I started to study the Terezín case, and I got more and more involved with it. And what really caught me, so to speak, it was a story of lie and deceit, much more than any other concentration camp where, once people got to Auschwitz or to Treblinka, they knew what was happening. And in Terezín, people, I mean, some people stay there for 4 years without knowing anything. And then I read, and again, I'm trying to be brief, so the story of the Red Cross visit. I don't know how much you know about that, that the Red Cross asked to visit concentration camps, and the Germans finally said, you can come to Terezín, which was their main objective, because of 500 Danish Jews that were kept there. The ones trying to visit was mainly the Danish Red Cross. So the visit was prepared for 6 months with an auction that they call the beautification of the city. Gardens were created, the city was emptied, obviously sending people further east to Auschwitz-Birkenau. A school and a hospital were created, fake, cafes, shops, and I'm dying very shortly. And finally the visit took place between 4 and 6 hours. I said between 4 and 6 hours in the town. And the report was very, very so positive that the International Red Cross stopped asking to visit other concentration camps, concluding that all the Germans were doing was to put the Jews in specific places, as that wasn't bad enough. So the visit was a real success for the Germans. And they were so happy with it that and like I said, this was what really fascinated me, that the Gestapo in Prague decided, and we have to look at the Nazi regime and the whole construction of the Nazi system. I know this is kind of dangerous, but still, it's like a corporation today, where all the departments want to show better work, so to climb up in the hierarchy. So in this sense, the Gestapo in Prague had the wonderful idea of making a film, because if they could fool the Red Cross, they imagined in the film, if they could fool in real life the Red Cross visiting, in images they could control much better, and they could fool many more people. The film was intended for Germany, to show in Germany that what was happening in case there were protests, and there were protests in Germany. It's hardly spoken about, but there were some protests, and around the world where possible. The film had also another intention, because Terezín, and I can mention that, was also created to arrest people that the Nazis couldn't kill right away, in the sense that if the Nazis will take a Jewish professor from a university in Germany, or a theater director, or a film, or an actor, or a composer, there was always a possibility that there would be some protests, or that this person, because he was a well-known person, had some contacts, even if he was Jewish, within the Nazi system. So if someone was sent to Auschwitz, his chances of surviving the first 2 weeks were very, very dim. So the Nazis created Terezín also as a VIP camp, where people were kept as long as they might be needed to be alive, and only then they would be put on the list to camp. So the film that was done also has close-up of people, of faces that were known, and that the Germans wanted to show these people are well and alive. So the film was prepared by the Gestapo. Kurt Geron, who was a prisoner himself, he was a famous cabaretist. He was a very good friend of Bertolt Brecht. He's the first voice that sings Mackie Messer, for example. And you can see him as well in The Blue Angel with Marlene Dietrich. He's the owner of the cabaret where Marlene Dietrich sings. So he was an actor, and he was commissioned to be the film director. while the film crew, the technicians and the camera came from Prague. There were a Prague film company, and they were hired, of course. Kurt Gerhard never saw the film. After the film was shot, while it was being edited, he was sent off to Auschwitz, where he died, where he was killed, as most of the people had participated in the film. But there is a script, a kind of that survived, a kind of image, scene per scene, so we know what the film was meant to be. And there are 21 minutes that a rest of the film that was found, and a part is now in Washington, and a part in Israel. This because when the film was finished editing, it was only shown once, apparently, to German officers, and then it was too late. The Soviets overran Czechoslovakia, and the film kind of disappeared in the aftermath. While the film was being done, there are some diaries that were hidden in Terezín and survived. They're writers that report about that. There's an incredible book that's supposed to be translated to English, but was supposed to come out in November, but I heard it's been delayed, by A.G. Adler, which is like a 700-page report. He was an inmate on Terezín, and it's really like it's an amazing book in the sense that he gives a full description of everything that was happening, including the film and how the film was made and how this lie was created, from all the deceit and I'm not going too much into it, but just from the Theresienstadt deceit, then we go over to a film that is supposed to deceive more and more people. I mean, it's an incredible story. And if we see the film today, and you can find it on YouTube, these parts that are still that exist, you can find it. There's two things. The film is still used by right-wing neo-Nazis, deniers, saying if this was a concentration camp, it cannot have been that bad. So it's still used for its original function as a propaganda tool for Nazis. And if you see the film without any commentary, without knowing exactly what it is, ironically, it was like a kibbutz in Israel in the 60s, or a Club Med holiday. People are working together, they are smiling, they are reading together, they are playing chess. There's this kind of socialist, let's say, a group activity in the film that comes through of a kind of paradise. What I'm saying is that the film, and that's where I really got interested in this material, the film, the images still have their power and they still function with the intent the Nazis had when they created, which for me, as a visual artist, brings me to the present, because I think the film is an example of what the film material with a very strong agenda can do. And in a society where we more and more rely on images and less on text, that film is a symbol for all the dangers that are out there, and that we're, I think, happily accepting, with all the television we get, with all the information we receive, and any image, and I'm saying this as a photographer, any image has an agenda. I mean, even if it's only like if I photograph only this side and not that side, because I don't know, because this side is so much better than your side. I'm sorry. That is an agenda. So if it's only an aesthetic reason, it's already a choice. So by choosing, I have an agenda, and I have to choose, because film can only show so much, and photography can only show a bit, And if I want to show that that this was a success and the room was full, I will show here. And if I want to show that the room was not so full, I will photograph there. So there is always an intention on purpose or without purpose, but there is an intention that we as consumers, and we are always consumers of images, are not necessarily aware because we don't think of that all the time, and that is really the danger of images. So anyway, I got interested in that because of this film, because I think the work is not, or is also about the Holocaust, obviously. It's also about what happened, but it's also about what happens now. And first in 2000, so I ended up doing all this project, this book, which, I mean, I can give it around if you want, which colors material from the original Terezín story, from postcards that they could send, and like graphs from the deaths. People were dying of yellow fever every day. But then it goes into the visual realm of the space and of the Nazi film. And I decided to use the film, and I'll show you a bit. I decided to use the Nazi film in a video work, but I really didn't want it to be as the Nazis wanted. I don't know if I'm able to see it here, but we tried. Because one thing that I was really interested in is how much can we believe in from this film. We know it's a lie, because we know it is set, it is staged, which brings us back to my original, or to Zebal's original photograph, that I felt the photograph was staged. The film is staged, obviously. So much so that there is a description of when they were shooting children eating bread at the kindergarten that was organized for the Red Cross visit, that did not exist before. So when they were shooting the kids eating bread with butter, the director, Kurt Karen, was constantly saying, this is not good, the kids are not good enough, we need to reshoot, we need to refilm. So apparently he refilmed it like 11 times, just so that the kids could eat bread with butter all afternoon. So we don't get this in the film, but we know this. But at the same time, we get the smiles of the children, and they were real. And the smiles of the people that are acting, being themselves in their normal lives, we get them as well in the film. And my thing is that, how much can we believe? Because the people were alive, they were in a concentration camp, but kind of ghetto. They didn't know, mostly they didn't know about Auschwitz, they didn't want to know about Auschwitz. All the news that came, people didn't want to believe, which is normal. If the doctor tells you we have so long to live, you'll say, no, I'll live at least double, and you work for that. You don't want, we as humans don't want to believe bad news, which is good. I think that's our survivor's instinct. But so there is truth in the film as well. There's a huge lie, but there's also truth. And the other thing that I was really interested and it's really, I think, important. This is practically the only film we have from a concentration camp, meaning that we don't have films from Auschwitz as a functioning concentration camp. Because the Nazis forbid images. The letters were censored. The letters from the Germans, from the German soldiers, were censored for pictures. They could not send visual material out of Auschwitz, which means the Nazis knew that they didn't want, visual evidence from that place. But that means that all the imagination we have from Auschwitz, visual imagination, it's either from the rare seen Soviet footage when they liberated Auschwitz, or mostly from fiction films. And obviously I'm speaking from Hollywood, mostly, although there are also some German films and so forth. But we don't have material from the camp. So the material from Terezín is from the camp, in real time from real prisoners, which makes it an incredible document in that sense. Even if it's a lie, it's still real enough for that. And I know it's very hard, and it's been very difficult for me to navigate through these lights and shadows, in a way, because to understand image is really it's really difficult. Laszlo Molinaghi said in the 30s that in the future we will all be analphabets because we won't know how to read the images. And I mean, he was right. He was completely right. And we all know that if we go into a documentary on whatever, if we agree with the filmmaker, we're going to say, oh, it's a wonderful film. And if he has another opinion, we're going to go out and say, oh, he's biased. It's not really like it. We're rarely convinced of something we don't believe in a documentary. Usually we like to go to documentaries that only tell us what we already think. So it's very hard, and I'm also thinking and challenging how if documentaries really can change us. If we don't know anything about the subject, we go there and obviously agree with everything because we don't know anything. But if we have a strong opinion, and I'm not going to say here a real subject because we all have opinions on some subjects, then we'll never really convince unless the documentary says exactly what we're already thinking when we're entering the cinema. So in that sense, this made it really, really interesting. And I decided to show the film, to change the film in two manners. Once I colored it, I don't know how much you can see, I colored it this kind of red, which you would think it's blood red, but in fact it's not. I mean, it is, but it's not because it's a more pinkish. It was the red that the Germans used to stamp the Jewish passports with a J for identification. And this was done not for identification for the Germans because they knew who the Jews were. This was done for countries like Portugal and like Switzerland to be able to distinguish between the German Aryan businessman and the German Jewish refugee who were at their borders. That was the only way they had. Like Portugal could not distinguish if someone was called whatever Schmidt or Kaufmann. He could not distinguish that easily. The Portuguese will not know. So they needed something more from the Germans, and the Germans started stamping this for these countries and not for themselves, which for me gains another importance because I live in Portugal and I was born there. So I decided to tint the film with this color to make these old people and also to reinforce that all the people in this ghetto concentration camp, they were Jewish. So this color kind of puts a J on every of their faces. Because interestingly enough, as we see in the film, although there were only Jews in Theresienstadt, they had to carry the Jewish star, because the Reich has its others, and this was a ghetto part of the Reich. So it's a function. And the other thing I did, which I took from Sebald, because Sebald in Austerlitz says Austerlitz, to try to find an image of his mother, slows down the film. To see if he can find his mother not in the center but on the surroundings of the image. And in fact, in the Sebald archive in Germany, there is a tape that Sebald owned with a slowed down version. I mean, we're talking VHS then, so it was not as easy as now. So I decided also to slow down the film to 25%, obtaining two things. One, I get by slowing it down to this percentage, I get back the 90 minutes that metaphorically was the time the Germans needed to tell their lie. So I'm back at the same point where the film original was at the 90 minutes. I can see, you won't see it here, I mean I'm going to show you just a little bit, but you won't see it probably here because of the light, but I can see all the smiles on the faces fade. I can see the corners of the picture. I can see people that were not meant to be filmed but still in the in the angle of the image, so they kind of walk. And I get one very strange thing that I will show you, that is the original voice, because it was built up as a normal documentary and there is some voiceover, becomes the voice of a demon, of the master, of God, whatever, because it becomes really, really strange. And I'll show you a bit and you understand that. The film was originally called like a documentary on a city, Theresienstadt, but it was immediately, and that's how the film is known, dubbed by someone in the camp, a prisoner. At the same time it was being shot, the Führer offers the Jews a city. Der Führer schenkt den Juden eine Stadt, and that's how the film became known, although the original name is Terezín. So I'll just show you a bit at the beginning and then I'll move over just a bit. And tell me if you can't see anything. I'll try to put it lighter here. Also the music that was composed mostly by Jewish composers in the camp and taken by the Nazis, although there's also traditional German music, becomes, because of the slowness, a funeral march. You know, so what we hear is a light music that becomes a funeral march because of that slow motion. Starts with these people seeing a performance, musical performance. But for me, the film begins with people watching their own death, in fact, because all these people will be dead very soon after. And also with this slowness, we get all the scratches in the film, all the fading of the film quality. And in Portuguese and in other languages, film is película, which comes from skin. So at the same time, we're seeing the fading of the people's faces and those skins. Let me show you the voice. you get an idea. And I'm just going to talk briefly about the other film that you see and not show it today. I think it's better than to show it to get you interested to come. When is it?
Thursday. I mean, the film, which one?
As if.
Yeah, on Thursday. I'm just going to pass these out. Here's the information.
Okay, but I'll talk a bit about it before we end, and I don't know if you have any questions as well. But then I was also, the thing is that Terezín, and again, unlike other concentration camps, is again a city where people live. And as they've all described, it's a city where more ghosts inhabit than actual living souls. And I was always interested in going back to make something about the present there. But I didn't want to go back and ask people, how do you feel to live in such a place? Because I would not, I live in Lisbon. If I would cross the squares and think what happened in Lisbon, how many people were killed on those squares in the Inquisition? I mean, I could not live there. So the fact that it's closer in time, because I don't know if it makes a difference, because that also raises questions, which is what would be the Holocaust in 20 years, in 50 years, in 100 years? You know, how are we going to? Is it still interesting? But then I started researching, and I'm not going to show you images. I started researching about the story of Terezín on film. And Terezín was used right in 1947 by a Czech film, which is amazing. 2 years after the war, the Czechs were filming already. And they did a film called A Distant Journey in English, in Terezín, about a fiction film. And I'm talking not documentary, but only about fiction film. They did a fiction film there, and in 1955, again, they did another one called Transport from Paradise. Both films are amazing in terms of cinema, so apart from the subject. And both films were prohibited by the communist regime right after the premiere, which, you know, kind of transports us from one censorship to the next. But then I looked, how was Terezín treated by fiction in the West? And in fact, Meryl Streep in the Holocaust series gets arrested in Terezín. And Holocaust is kitsch, as we all know, but it was very, very important. I was in Germany at that time, and it was the first time the Holocaust was served at dinner time, so to speak, to the German families. So much that after each episode, they had a group in the TV studio, they had a group of historians, psychologists, receiving calls from the audience. And they thought they would get calls saying, oh, that SS uniform was not exactly like that. But mostly they were getting calls from younger people who didn't know anything about the story and were asking factual questions. So Holocaust is kitsch, yes, but it was very important. And obviously the American studio could not cut into Terezín because it was communist Czechoslovakia. So the already fake Nazi Terezín was rebuilt fakely in an American studio. And you know, it really makes the scenes interesting. So what I did in this long film, as if, because it takes 4.5 hours for many reasons. One of them is, like I said, the Red Cross visit was also between 4 and 6 hours. But I mixed the present, the Terezín of the present, which is basically empty because, like I said, it's 1,200 people, and they most go out during the week to work somewhere else in other nearby towns. So it's crazy people and mothers with babies during the week. It's very, very empty, and tourist groups who come to Terezín to visit. But Terezín obviously doesn't rank high on the Holocaust tours because it was not an extermination camp. So if you go somewhere, you go to Auschwitz or somewhere else. So Terezín is mainly visited by kids from south of Germany, from the Munich area, because it's not very far by bus. But what is still strange is that they go to the small fortress, which is the prison, and like I said, it's kind of the museum. And then they go and have lunch at one of the 2 restaurants in town. And most people, and I understood that from talking with them, they think, oh, we visited the prison, now we go to have lunch. But basically, lunch is where the actual prison was. Because in the small fortress, people were arrested were in prison for a reason, a wrong reason, most probably, most definitely, because they were arrested first because they were, Czechs, insurgents against the Nazis, then Jews who had committed some kind of crime in the bigger fortress. So they were arrested in the small fortress unjustly, but they had a reason for it. In the bigger fortress, people were just arrested because they were Jews. So, and this is very hard to understand for people who visit Terezín. So in the midst, you have these tourists who think, poof, we visit the fortress, now we can have lunch. And they're actually eating somewhere where, and just to finish, when I was filming the other film, as if, there are only, like I said, there are only 2 restaurants. So we ended up eating every day almost at a small pizzeria. And one day the guy came over, said, I'm seeing you taking pictures of town. I know you're interested, so I'm going to show you something. I introduced to the attic. And in the attic he had some drawings on the wall made by people who had lived there during, as it was a concentration camp, some small paintings done for children, things like that. So Terezín is all a museum in a kind of way, but it's interesting because it's not a museum, and it also raises question what to do with the concentration camps. Should the concentration camps be museums or not? Again, because Auschwitz, what we see now in Auschwitz is only a very small percentage from what the camp was. It's like 10% from the area, because the land was taken over at the end of the war by the original owners and then by the communist government. The wood from the barracks was burned for heating, so the barracks are all fake. And the wire that you see on the post is not, it's obviously not 60-year-olds. Every 3 years or so, they put wire for a few months under the rain and under the snow, so it looks vintage, and then they put it back there. He raises question. I don't have the answer, don't ask me. but I raise question. So I don't know if any one of you wants to say something, or we'll just wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you. It's hard to grasp in some ways this topic, but so we have time for questions, or
People who can stay could certainly ask
Yeah.
a few questions.
so go ahead.
You gave us a very long, detailed context to this particular footage. When you show it, is it seen on its own, or are you there to introduce it like you did today?
Well, it comes when it's shown in a museum context. I always put the book there so people can browse the book and understand the context. I can't be there every time. but for example, when I did the last show in Lisbon, which had a new film, it was a longer work. It was like 3 floors of photography. It was not only Terezín, it was a lot of Perec and Zeewald. I did like 6 or 7 guided visits. I can't do more than that. But my idea is that art and this type of work must instigate you to look afterwards. And now we have the internet, so it's very easy to find. I think art should not only be about going to museums and it's really beautiful. It should pull you into some more interesting subjects. But yes, the book serves as a guide, because otherwise it would be difficult to understand.
Are the subtitles in English? Who put them there?
I have no idea, and I have asked many people, and it also comes with the stage artist film.
So that wasn't you.
Which I thought of actually erase it because it would be easy to erase it, and I said no, it brings me back to the stage from the original photograph. I got the material from because in Europe it's very hard to get. In Germany it's forbidden to buy Nazi material. You can't. There's a big discussion about the Mein Kampf book, which is now losing its rights because it's 75 years. So what to do with it? Although it's already available everywhere on the internet, and statutory question. But I got my thing from a company in California. It was from the States. And they were kind of selling, I thought, are they doing this for nostalgic reasons? Because they'll sell a lot of material from that. So I don't know. I don't know who did subtitles. Any other question or comment or critique?
You should ask Sharon Rebo with the National Center for Yiddish Film where those subtitles come from.
That's something.
Sharon Rebo from the National Center for Jewish Film at Brandeis University. They have a copy of that. You might ask her.
Yeah.
She'll tell you who to find.
All right. Yeah, you could. Because I know some of the original is in Washington at the Holocaust Museum. And some others in I think Yad Vashem. I'm not absolutely certain because I did this research a long time ago. I think that's it. So I don't even know how the film got together, on a DVD with different parts. But like I was knowing in Minneapolis with Leslie Morris, and she doesn't know either. She has no idea. So these things kind of start getting around, and nobody knows anymore.
But did you mention the subtitles correspond to what the voice?
It does. No, it does. It is,
The voice would be German?
German, yes. Who translated knew perfect German. And so I don't even know if the subtitles are done for the DVD copy. They could have. Because all the company I was saying in I think it's California, sells fiction, Nazi fiction films, which are very interesting for research, and they all come subtitled. So they might have put the subtitles to sell it.
So you work with the DVD and not the actual film?
Yes. Now the actual film you cannot touch.
Even an artist?
And I don't want to have that responsibility. No, like I was just at the Zewald archive, and there you can touch everything. But film is really something, And the rest of this film might even still exist in Soviet archives. One question that is intriguing me for a year is like there was a huge library. All the books that were confiscated in Germany were sent to Terezín. So there was like a library with 10,000 books, and I have no idea what happened to that library. I couldn't find anything about it until today. And it would be just a film just to go and search for that library, even if you won't find it. Because I don't think the Soviets will take it, all those German books. Or maybe it was burned.
Is there an image for it?
I don't think so, but there are images in the film where you can see it was really a well-stocked library. So there's always lots of questions, but can't follow all of them. I follow too many already.
Okay, there's a question here.
On the technical side, is the film originally on celluloid?
Yes.
So that's very hard to preserve.
Yeah, that's why they are in these museums. Yes. And I don't even know the exact story how it was. I think it was these were rests from the print at the studio in Prague, because the copy that the Nazis had disappeared. Maybe in the bombing, definitely during the Soviet occupation, or there is a complete copy in the Soviet archives. I don't do that kind of research. I leave that to historians. It could be under a certain like when I did the film I'm showing today, Under Strange Skies, I went to research at the Cinematheque Archive in Lisbon for film from that period. And there were 5 tins labeled film text, not even text. And nobody really knew what they were. And I used it in the film. You'll see it if you come. And it's wonderful material. And I found out it was shot. What was his name? I don't remember his name, but the guy who worked with Fritz Lang in Metropolis, and then he went on to win an Oscar in in the States with the, what is it, the name, the one we call Newman, with the player.
The Hustler?
The Hustler. The Hustler. He did the cinematography for that. And he was in Lisbon during the war, and that material stayed there at the archive, and nobody really knew it. It's incredible material. So these things happen. You know, it can well be that the film exists somewhere still in its entirety. I don't think the old Soviet and Russian archives have been really researched by Western historians and so forth. Yes.
Let me just comment the possibility on that. They built a huge Jewish museum in Moscow. And the person who would know is Benjamin Nathans, who was the advisor, who's at the University of Pennsylvania in the history department. He might know. He's been involved in everything. And if the Russians took it, which Russians took everything, he might know.
Are you writing it down?
Yes.
Great.
Right.
Great. Because another, and Zebal doesn't go into that, I think maybe on purpose. But Adler, the one who wrote the book on terrorism, was involved. While the Germans were destroying the Jewish communities in Czech, destroying, obliterating, might be a better word, the Jewish communities in Czechoslovakia, they were building a museum in Prague with Jewish artifacts. At the same time, they already creating this idea of a destroyed civilization, or non-civilization, of a destroyed native people, which I think is very interesting. You destroy at the same time that you create its memory. You know. But all these stories are so. That's why I think when we speak about the Holocaust, at least for me, when I work around the Holocaust, it's not about the past. I think the Holocaust is so large as an event that has all possible stories of humankind in it. And I'm thinking of, and I think when I do this, I'm also talking about, like I said, around the images, but also politically, and so about other subjects, about other minorities, about racism. I'm talking about anti-Semitism, but anti-Semitism is racism as well, about gay rights, whatsoever about minorities. I think the work, I feel more confident working on something I have a past, a common past to deal with. I will not feel comfortable working on racism since I'm not black, I'm not gay, and so forth. But I do think this touches everything, because it's all about the same thing. The difference between destroying people or treating them badly and so is huge, but it's not that big. It's just one more step when you stop considering people as normal people, as you and me. So it's huge in its results and all this construction of killing, of the factory of killing. But in the beginning, the Nazi regime didn't start out in 1933 to go on the street and kill all the Jews or the Gypsies. It built up, slowly, and went. I don't even think they knew it at the beginning that they were going to do it. But I leave that to historians too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And just a reminder that tonight at 5 at the Institute for Holocaust, Genocide and Memory Studies at UMass, the film Under Strange Skies will be shown, which is a documentary about Somerset Daniel's family. And then Thursday night at 7 in White 101, you have that piece of paper. We're going to show 45 minutes of a version of this film. The whole film is over 4 hours. And I wish we were able to show it, but we couldn't quite pull it together. So I hope to see you at one or both of those events. Thank you.
Thank you.